Welcome to California in Focus. I'm Cole Lauterbach, managing editor of the Center Square Newswire service. Today, we'll be discussing an analysis by the Center Square showing just how much FEMA has spent on migrant services in California since 2023. And to give you a preview, it's not as much as you'd think it'd be, but a lot more than you'd expect as well. Kenneth Schrupp, California reporter, joins me. Kenneth, rundown. I mean, this was a Herculean effort for you to extract all of the different accounting and ways and titles and such. What did you finally come at as far as a round number, and how conservative is it?
Hi, I think I've come up with an extremely conservative low estimate in how much money FEMA has spent on services for non-citizen migrants in California since 2023 for one very specific program, and that's $159 million. This has mostly gone to NGOs, namely Catholic charities in San Diego and Jewish charities in San Diego, and some county and city governments.
Now, California has long been a sanctuary state, as you know, 2017, but they've changed laws recently allowing individuals convicted of crimes that could impact their legal status in the country to petition for resentencing as well. Now, how many illegal immigrants, could this bring California up to at this point? And who's estimating this?
Well, we have some old estimates in about the high 1 to 2 million individual range. However, in just the last few years, we've had a major increase in illegal crossings into California. 2022, we had 300,000. 2023, we had 514,000. And for 2024, we're expected to have 625,000. And we don't know how many of these are staying in California. We don't know how many people are moving elsewhere across the country. But certainly there's been a major influx in recent years. And the estimated decrease that we had during lockdowns and COVID is probably ended.
Yeah. And now also on top of that, where you come into this figure being so conservative is that California is putting so much more into paying for, healthcare to these 700,000 undocumented migrants. I think it was $4 billion from a previous story. They're scaling those costs up as well. And we're doing this all under the shadow of a state that is overspending its revenue estimates by estimations of billions of dollars. We are hearing now from Republicans who, really don't have much power at all in state government, but that's a very, very different story come January in the federal government. Are we seeing people start to get a little nervous in California about the status of their federal funding due to the fact that they subsidize these migrants that come into the country?
Yeah, California receives over $100 billion a year to state coffers from the federal government. This includes things ranging from healthcare to homelessness spending. Even some of its climate change programs are funded through the federal government. If this funding is held up, if the incoming Trump administration decides, okay, your Medicare system is being used for undocumented migrants, we're going to stop the federal spending. That's an immediate, I believe, about half of its Medicare funding comes from the federal government. So that would be another $45 billion lost. I haven't seen the latest federal homelessness spending estimates, but that money could be held up too. There are a large number of tools that could be used against California if it decides to continue to uphold its lack of cooperation with federal immigration authorities.
Now, meanwhile, in the city of Los Angeles, they got another $22 million from FEMA for migrant services in the same period. And they are moving to try and fight the Trump administration, poke the bear of sorts, before Trump takes office. And how could that affect them?
So up until now, the city of Los Angeles has technically and occasionally cooperated with ICE in detaining certain individuals. Most of the time they do. LA has ignored ICE detainer requests for violent criminal migrants. But with the passing of a new city ordinance, that is going to end. And this could bring up major fiscal issues for Los Angeles because they are currently out of money. The city controller says the city is, quote, broke.
Their words, not yours. Those are their words.
Yes, exactly. They're so broke that they're taking an $80 million loan out this year just to pay for lawsuit liabilities. These are court-ordered payments that the city has to make. There's no money left to go around. So if the city somehow stops getting money from the federal government for a whole bevy of programs, even this $20 million it can't afford not to have.
All right. Now, in just this year and last year, FEMA's program that you analyzed, they sent $364 million and then $640 million, respectively, to federal grants to what they refer to as non-federal entities that provide humanitarian services to non-citizen migrants.
Right. That's about $1 billion there.
Yeah. I mean, tell me about your previous reporting between Border Patrol's nearly 14 million individuals having entered the country illegally. And what type of ramifications do you think that that's going to have just on the city if the Trump administration does lower the hammer? You talked about, just not being able to pay for migrant services on their own. But this is going to have tentacles into the rest of their budget departments as well.
Yeah, that's true. The city relies a lot on federal funding for transportation. The metro budget is significantly subsidized by the state, and the federal government. Federal grants really are responsible for the big purchases for the city because the city just doesn't have the money to do big things anymore unless it takes out bonds directly from voters. Homelessness is also something that's at issue. If we look at how much this could cost LA, we really don't know. I've seen estimates that there are, between 1 and 2 million total illegal immigrants in Los Angeles. We don't know how much of an impact that's having on housing prices. We don't know what the impact of deportation would have on labor prices and how that would interact with housing. Would housing get cheaper, but so much cheaper that higher labor costs would be offset by that? We don't know because we don't really know how many people are there.
It's an incredible period of flux that, you've seen prognostications going, like you said, either direction. Kenneth, thanks for joining us today. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.